igniting community, a safe space to learn, share, and grow. Don't forget to like and subscribe below.
Hi everybody, I'm Doris Forrester. I'm back for another gender chat, the last one of 2021. I hope everyone's doing well. My thoughts for this chat and for the next few was to build upon the global fertility talk I did the last time. And just to recap, total fertility is the number of babies a woman is expected to have, and during her lifetime. And I made a connection between economic development, fertility, and gender equality. So basically, countries that have a high economic development tend to have low fertility and greater equality. And countries with low economic development tend to have a higher fertility rate but less gender equality. And so what I thought I would do, fertility, in order to understand fertility, there's many components that make up the reason why a country has higher fertility versus lower fertility. It's like a big puzzle. And what I thought I would do is break apart the pieces to that puzzle and dig deeper so that we have a better understanding of what goes into the fertility rate to help explain why fertility rate in a country is whatever it is. And in order to bring down the fertility rate, because that's the key to gender equality, is bringing down that fertility rate so women have access to employment, education, and some of those power positions, what has to happen in these other areas. So the first one I'm going to look at is infant mortality rate. It's not the most important. I don't think we can rank them in importance, these indicators that go into fertility, but it's just the first one I wanted to talk about. And infant mortality, there's two data sets that go into infant mortality, and a lot of people interchange them. But you have to make sure you're looking at the right set because it gives us a different picture about a country. So we're looking at infant mortality, which is the number of babies that are dying for every 1,000 babies that are live births by the age of 1. So infant mortality is the number of babies dying before they reach the age of 1 for every 1,000 live births. And then the other one is, I call it a child mortality, but people also call it infant mortality, but it's the number of children that are dying before they reach their 5th birthday for every 1,000 live births. Both sets of data help us to understand why fertility rates are higher or lower. And our key is to get those rates down in order to to decrease fertility and then improve gender equality. So the first one I'm going to look at, obviously, is the infant mortality, the number of babies dying before they reach the age of 1. And if we look at this map in particular, this is what is called an isodemographic map. And it's actually one of my favorite maps because it's kind of wonky looking, and people are drawn to it for some reason. I'm drawn to them. And so the shape of the country is not its area, but how it ranks in terms of the indicator you're looking at. So if the country's large, it means it's got a higher value of whatever you're looking at. And if the country's small, it doesn't. It has a smaller one. So in terms of mortality, the African nations and a lot of the Asian nations stand out as having the largest or the highest infant mortality. So the more babies dying for every 1,000 live births than countries that have a smaller one. And in Canada and the United States, you can barely tell their shape. The same goes for a lot of the European nations. Australia, New Zealand, Japan, they're kind of squashed, almost flattened, and we can't really identify what those countries are. And so when we look at infant mortality, there's a lot that goes into that number and why that number's high. So we look at female health, prenatal, postnatal care, access to health care, prenatal, postnatal, and during birth, where the baby's born, in terms of food, in terms of nutritional food, for the mother, post, and for the baby, access to vaccines, access to clean water. So the healthier the woman, the healthier the baby she will have, and the chances of that baby making it to the age of 1 are quite high. The less healthy a woman is, results in babies that are not as healthy, and they have a higher risk of not making it to the age of 1. And so worldwide, there's been a big push in bringing down the infant mortality rate. And it has come down in every single country, but there's still countries that need some more assistance to get that number down. How that relates to fertility, I'm going to do the under 5, and then I'll make that whole connection. So when we look at the data, this comes from the CIA World Factbook. And so the CIA World Factbook has collected data for countries for many different topics and many, many different indicators. And whatever data the countries release, the CIA World Factbook has brought it together all under one place, and it's just a great site to go to. So if we look at infant mortality, and this is babies dying before they reach the age of 1 per 1,000 live births, we can see Afghanistan, 10% of their babies are not making it, and that's huge. Somalia is second with about 8%. But Afghanistan has gone through several wars, a lot of political instability, and under Taliban rule, women did not have the same access to healthcare that they had before. And I suspect that number is going to increase, but we'll see what data the country releases. Now, Afghanistan's in the Middle East, Asia, but then we look at, or just west of the Middle East, actually. And then we look at countries in the position from 2 to 28 are all African nations. And then we're again looking at Yemen. They're in a civil war on the brink of starvation, and there's a lot of famine. So women are not healthy in childbirth, but we're still looking at lots of African nations. Haiti's there, one of the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And as we go through, Bangladesh was one of the countries I talked about in the last talk, about becoming from a low-income country to a middle-income country, and their fertility rates have come down, and actually their infant mortality rates have come down significantly. And if you look at Rwanda as well, even a lower infant mortality rate than Bangladesh, and they it's come down significantly. So we know that these countries are probably making investments in healthcare, and maternal health is becoming a priority. It's one of the sustainability goals, which at the end of all of this, I will come back to the sustainability development goals. And when we go to the bottom of the list, not the bottom, but the lower infant mortality, these are a lot of the island nations, countries that have a significantly elderly population with not a lot of babies, and also the richer countries. I'm going to shift to the other data set, which is the mortality rate. I call it the child mortality rate, so it's the number of children that die before they reach the age of 5, which is a little bit different. It's not focusing so much on the health of the mother, but the health of the child. And I'm not going to go into all of that because we're talking about gender. But basically, if your babies are surviving past the age of 5, or not surviving past the age of 5, it's an indication that they're not getting enough food. There's diseases are rampant. And there's something happening in that country that is killing the children, and that's not a good thing, and that's going to relate to fertility in a moment. So if we look at these maps, we'll look at 1990. We can see over 200 babies dying for every 1,000, children dying before they reach the age of 5 for every 1,000 live births. In 1990, we can see Africa and Asia have the highest rates. We see a difference between Canada and the United States, and you can understand that between our universal health care and our paid maternity leave. And you can see a difference between Western and Eastern Europe, except for Spain, and I can't figure out what was going on in Spain at that point. Now let's go 10 years ahead to 2000, and we can see there's less red on the map, but still Africa stands out. Asia has gotten better, and we see a division between Eastern and Western Europe, a very obvious division, and Canada and the United States have evened out. Canada is still slightly lower infant mortality rate or child mortality rate than the United States. And that would be healthcare. So what's probably happened is, I would think they focused on children health. And our last one is in 2015, and I don't have any data for 2000 and 20. It would be nice to look at, but the red's disappeared. So we know that worldwide these countries have done an amazing job. The NGOs have come in, the sustainability goals are in place, and countries have made good choices. There's still a ways to go because we have countries that are between 50 and 199 children for every 1,000 live births that are dying. Okay, I'm going to stop this for a minute, and I'm going to pull another set of data. This website's a little bit finicky, and so I just want to make sure I'm not wasting anybody's time. So just one second. So here we have, according to the World Health Organization, the under 5 mortality rate, probability of dying by the age of 5. So it's a probability, so the values are not the actual deaths, but it's just the probability of dying. It's the best data I can get, or I could find. We can see that Africa and Eastern Mediterranean are higher than the global value of 38 children dying before they reach the age of 5 for every 1,000 live births. Sorry, I had a little distraction. And then we can see the Americas, Western Pacific, and Europe quite lower than the global value of 38. And then here, if we look at distribution by country, just give you an idea of how we have some countries, Nigeria over 100, and then some close to 0. And this is not the best visual, but it'll just give you an idea. So I'm going to stop this for a minute. I'm going to bring up some actual data that we can look at quickly. Okay, so I have this data up. This is under 5 mortality for the most recent year, 2019. Again, I don't know the accuracy of this data because I think it's a probability that the World Health Organization has generated the data, and it doesn't come from the countries. But we'll see that Afghanistan, we have 60 babies dying, or children dying before they reach the age of 5. And you can see, Angola, it's quite higher than Afghanistan, which doesn't support the infant mortality rate from the CIA World Factbook. You would think that Afghanistan would be at the top of that list, but they're not. If we look at Bangladesh, they have 30. And I'm just going to scroll down. Let's see, Bosnia Herzegovina, under 5. Oh, sorry. This website does not cooperate with me at all. And I'm just going to go to Rwanda because that was another one. And you can see how it varies. Haiti's 62. That's quite high for them, or not for them, but for a country to have 62 children dying for every 1,000. But Haiti's a very poor country. And just Rwanda. Rwanda is at 34. Now, you might wonder, what does the child mortality and the infant mortality have to do with gender equality? Well, in order to bring fertility down, we need to have these babies and these children surviving, because the relationship is the more babies that are dying and the more children that are dying, so infant mortality and child mortality, if it's high, you're going to have a higher fertility rate. Women tend to have more babies, knowing that not all their children will survive past the age of 1 or the age of 5. If we bring these numbers down and the survival rates are higher, we're going to see women having fewer children. It's only one component of this big picture of fertility, but this is one area a government can tackle. They can focus on maternal health, which is going to be my topic for next week. Maternal health, and they could focus on infant health, more than health, nutrition, sanitation, vaccinations, food, nutritional food, food security. And when we see all of those improvements happening, we're going to see survival rates improving. Have they improved over the last 50, 60 years? Yes, they have worldwide. Do we still have a ways to go? Yes, we do. If we bring these numbers, these survival rates higher with lower infant mortality and lower child mortality, women will have less babies, so the fertility rate will decrease, and then what we'll see is greater gender equality from all of the relationships I've talked about. So that's it for me for this week. Next time, I'm going to focus on maternal health and maternal mortality rates to see how this fits into fertility. Until then, bye for now.